Jimmy and JoAnne, I had heard earlier that Dr. Tedros was contact traced. I guess he was at some fancy restaurant where somebody got coronavirus and now he's got to lock down. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. There is another reason why there's an open question as to whether or not the UN has blood on its hands.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Yeah,
The UN played a big role in destroying Libya in 2011.
and other countries, but
Yeah.
Libya, personal knowledge from this end.
Yeah, and what they're doing, they have continued to strike at Libya and hold back the Libyan people from taking their country back for 10 years now. And now they're coming in and saying, well, we're going to have a ceasefire. That's just the military. And the Libyans are now looking with crossed eyes at that because they say this is a smoke and mirrors game to get rid of the Libyan National Army and for the Muslim Brotherhood and their Turkish allies to take over the Libyan oil fields. The next thing that's happening is they've got a big meeting in Tunisia, which the UN representative, the lady Stephanie Williams, who has no connection with Libya, doesn't know the Libyan people. She set up with 75 people that nobody knows how she even came up with these 75 people. And they're going to discuss the politics in Libya. This is the same
They're
thing.
going to decide.
Yeah, they're going to decide. They are stacked with Muslim Brotherhood. And the tribes told me that the Muslim Brotherhood has bribed their way into this. The UN has no authority to come in and tell Libya how to run their country, whether they have elections or not. This is Stephanie Williams doing nothing for Libya. And she doesn't even know what she's doing, obviously, to me. She's joined hands with the Muslim Brotherhood.
But
So
way back there, let's go back 5 or 6 years ago when they were putting together this phony UN
Secured
government trying to this seared agreement, everything.
secure.
Yeah, they were guaranteeing that there would be an election set in place where the Libyan people would vote for a candidate to run their country. And in these 5 years, that hadn't happened. Instead, they've installed a phony government that is Muslim Brotherhood, 100%, that has been raping the country. The country people don't have water, they don't have food, they don't have medicine. There have been no repairs done to the power grid that was blown up by the US, UN, and NATO. And they're continuing to do this. And this is with absolutely full compliance by the United States and the other people that are bound and determined to split Libya up and keep raping that country. They've already stolen the Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of Japan have already stolen $500 billion of Libyan money. They've already stolen 174 tons of gold, 2,000 tons of silver, and that was prior to the end of 2011. Wow. So what we got is a continuing rape of the country, 1 million or more Libyans killed, and the UN is in there continuing to drive their agenda and not giving the Libyan people any options at all. And the Libyan people are disgusted with it. And really, the thing that's happened, we mention this a lot, but General Sisi is a real good guy, except the IMF and the other banking entities. They're all owned by the same foreign banksters. They went into Egypt. They've been in there several times, and they've offered very, very favorable development money where they're granting half of the money to Egypt, and Egypt is going to be on the hook for the other half at interest rates in the 1 to 1.5% per year for projects that Egypt has needed for some time. And of course, I think the backside of that is that they have General Sisi make a real good show in front, but his pledge and the agreement that was done in Cairo, where they cleaned out all the militias, which are mercenaries. They're Muslim Brotherhood primarily. They're foreigners. They're in Libya, holding the country at gunpoint, raping the country at gunpoint, and they've never been moved out. They've been sanctioned, yet Turkey continues to move in every day, more troops, more weapons. So it's a toothless lion, Nothing has been done to stop the continued invasion and takeover of Libya by foreign entities, originally initiated by the UN. So does the UN have blood on its hands? Absolutely. And they continue to have blood on their hands. And
Yeah.
the two-faced United States on one side, oh, we really are going to help the Libyan people. And that's bullshit, because this woman that the U.S. installed as the representative for the Libyans in the UN, she doesn't know anybody in Libya. She doesn't talk to the Libyan tribes. She didn't talk to the legitimate Libyan executives. She only talks to the Muslim Brotherhood, and probably she's got a huge bank account someplace with gazillions in it.
Well, the Libyan tribes told us it's all done on bribery.
Yeah.
But
So, what is this person's background, JoAnne? How did Stephanie Williams get appointed to this role?
It's all political, Jason. It's she's worked up from somewhere, but she has no authority to represent the Libyan people. She has no authority to set up a meeting and appoint certain people to be in it to decide what's going to happen in Libya. Who is this woman? The Libyan tribes are the ones who need to decide. The Libyan people are the ones who need to decide. Why is she in there running everything, acting like she's in charge of Libya, like there's some corporation
And beginning
she's
about
running?
18 months ago, they
Yeah.
promised the Libyans an election immediately. Well, now then, this bunch of crap that's going on in Tunisia, they're talking about it's going to take 18 months to set a plan in place for an election in Libya.
Yeah, but on top of that, Jason, she's been contacted by many leaders of the tribes, leaders of other cities in Libya, leaders of the House of Representatives, many leaders telling her this is a bad deal. What you're doing, the Libyans will not comply. You are not putting the Libyan people first. You're not allowing the Libyan people to speak. You've got it full of Muslim Brotherhood, half of people which don't even live in Libya. This is a crazy deal she's got going on, and she's paying no attention to them. Last week we talked about the formal letter the tribes put out, and they said any legitimate Libyan involved in this is dropping out. There were 6 of the 75 people legitimate Libyans. So why is Turkey, I'm sure, behind this? Why are they running who's going to how Libya is going to do their politics? It's because it's all about money and control.
And they keep putting forward dividing Libya up. And
Yeah.
again, they've added all the oil fields as part of this initial move to have a big ceasefire. And they're going to include the part that's under control of the Muslim Brotherhood. And maybe the government in Tobruk is going to include all the oil fields.
You'll see tonight on our show, Jason, there's a great article that was written, and it's got it mapped out exactly what the Muslim Brotherhood want and what the Libyan people want.
Well, that's what I wanted to remind everybody about. In just about 20 minutes, we're going to be starting our sponsor exclusive show on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, and also subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. It seems that this woman, Stephanie T. Williams, has got the credentials of somebody who's been to, various universities that the UN and the US government think are great. She's been like an ambassador kind of thing. She's working in various US embassies, the mission to Iraq, Jordan, Bahrain. She's an Arabic speaker, and she's had a career in the Middle East as a specialist. But this is all stuff that's come out of books. And for people who aren't familiar with Jimmy and JoAnne, it's important that we remind everybody that Jimmy and JoAnne were on the ground in Libya for 4 years, from 2007 to 2011, where they were running their oil services business and became acquainted with the tribes in a way that nobody else in the history of the United States ever has. General Michael Flynn has said that you guys are the best human intelligence, and you've been spending all this time trying to get the word out. There's no way this woman, Stephanie Williams, doesn't know about the two of you. And if she doesn't, if the United States diplomatic corps that's trying to negotiate in Libya is unaware of you two and your experience there, that's a major disconnect between the intelligence services and the diplomatic services. They should be speaking with you at very least for advice.
Jason, we've seen the United States instigate revolution and takeover in 70 countries since World War II ended, at least 70 countries. And of course, the dirty game that we always play is we go in and commit economic warfare on these countries, and then we start sanctioning them and reduce the quality of life of the people We don't fight the political environment in any of these countries. We go and demolish the lives of the people first, make their lives so miserable that they're ready to accept any piece of shit that somebody will put in their hand and say, okay, if you'll just eat this ball of dog turd, that we're going to make your life better. And the United States has done that in at least 70 countries, and we continue to do that. We've got 1,000 bases with attack military in those bases in countries all over the world.
But Jimmy, they're
That's
doing
not
it right here in the United States. That's exactly the plan to get Joe Biden elected.
That's
Sure it is.
exactly
Same
the
thing.
plan. Same
Same
thing.
thing.
It's their playbook, Jason. They use it everywhere.
We saw it at one of the polling stations where a bunch of voters were trying to get in there, and there was absolute full armored military and sheriffs preventing these folks from getting into a polling station.
Why?
This happened yesterday. That was here in the, well, I don't guess we're going to ever find out if the media is responsible for disclosing it. And the photos that came out about that, we've been trying to dig into that, but we didn't have time today to get the rest of the story out. But, there have been threats of riots. We were told from a deep insider that there are 1,000 cells in place all over the United States. And the day after the election, there's going to be an upheaval no matter who wins. And that there's like these cells, I don't know how many people are in cells, 20, 40, 50, 100, but New York may have 18 of these cells in place. And Rush Limbaugh said that the hotel he stays in 4 days a week when he does his show is full of people that, don't look like they belong there. And when he asked the head of that hotel, they said, well, these people, they come in and their bills are prepaid, they've got unlimited expense account. And so Rush went and talked to him. He said, what are you doing here? He said, we're here to change the world or something like that. We called a gal that runs the events and stuff for a company that does it for Hilton and Marriott. And she said their hotels are completely full, and that they've got bank documents where they're able to draw down twice a day
This is Soros.
for all the people that are in there, and they have unlimited use of the bars, the restaurants, the mini bars, etc. And she said, we've made more money in the last 8 months than we've made in any year. So
What?
the hotels are full of people. Yes, sir. Hotels are
Wow.
full of people that don't belong there. Probably Soros is paying these bills.
Well, a lot of them are not U.S.
They're not U.S. citizens. They don't dress right.
This
They
is
don't
what
talk
they did
right.
in Libya. They filled it full of these mercenaries, 250,000 of them. And when they started to take over the country, they loosed all these people with weapons. They weaponized them. They had Blackwater leaders. They had leaders from the CIA, and they destroyed the country from the inside out.
And here in the United States, they're tasked. They've got bricks, fire bombs, and everything in place for all these cells, and they're going to disrupt all the cities they can in the United States. And the good news is there has been such an awakening,
Groundswell,
such an awakening that you're not seeing in the news. These Trump trains and Trump rallies that are happening all over the United States are huge, massive. 50, 60, 100, 200,000 people. Trump trains 95 miles long. There was one up in your backyard, Jason. I think it was 57 miles long on Long Island. And places like even Hollywood, in Southern Illinois, in
Miami,
Philadelphia, Miami, all over. In fact, in Texas,
San Diego,
they ran the Biden bus out of Texas, ran it out of Texas.
Yeah, they did.
We'll show
and
that
then
in the show.
They tried to complain and say, they tried to call the FBI and say that they tried to run us off the road. It was terrible. Well, the authorities in Texas went back and looked at the tapes, and they said, no, it was the Biden people who tried to cause the problem. So this is, it's happening everywhere, and they're not reporting it because I think they're scared to report it.
But they found so much fraud already. They found the Democrats mailed out 100 million mail-in ballots. A lot of those have been located, but that's a bunch. They have found many, many, many locations where the post office is throwing out Republican ballots. And on the mail-in ballot, on the envelope itself, one of the numbers at the end of the letters has either a D or an R on it. So they say, oh, postman won't know whether it's a Republican or Democrat. That's bullshit. There's a D or an R on it.
Listen,
And they caught so many postmen and post offices with their dumpsters full of Republican ballots.
Wow.
In spite of all that, there's such a groundswell. But Jason, and I'm going to editorialize a minute. Trump has got such an uprising of people that are finally awake. And I think what really has happened is that they've been locked in and locked down for 8 months.
Yeah.
And now then here's something that they can do to protest against not only that, but all the other crap. So they're out in the street. They're not wearing masks. They're not social distancing. They're having these spontaneous rallies all over the United States. And I mean, even in Hollywood, they're having them. And so what's going to happen? The bad guys, and we heard this from the inside, the bad guys are so shocked that these sheeple here in the United States have finally awakened. And so Trump has got a mandate, and he's going to have an opportunity to do the things that I think he's been blocked from doing for the last 4 years. And he's got an opportunity to do it. However, since the people are already awake and they're already in the street, if Trump does not act, and if the deep state continues to block him, then those people are already in the street. They're not going to go back in their house. They've had enough of it. They want to go to a restaurant. They want their kids to be safe. They want the schools to be open. And they don't want this bullshit of some phony pandemic that has ruined our lives, ruined our health, and ruined our economies. So that's my editorializing for today. But I think everybody's going to be surprised.
Did you notice that when we tried to look at the videos for these different Trump rallies, all we're getting is ads, because all of these things are paid for by corporate sponsors, unlike the sponsor exclusive show that we've got coming up right after this. People can join us there by sponsoring Jimmy and JoAnne on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, or by sponsoring Crowdsource the Truth on Patreon or Subscribestar. I like this method much better. I get so annoyed. Some of these websites have so many ads all over them, I can never even actually get to the information that I want to look at because I'm literally overwhelmed by the ads.
And they wiggle with your mouse, and when you try to click on something, they've jumped the screen where you're going into another ad.
You know, I found a lot of videos we're going to show tonight, a bunch of them. They're not very long, but they're videos that I get off Twitter because people took them themselves.
Yeah.
Somebody took it and posted on Twitter. There's no ad. I can download the video, you know?
Yeah. But JoAnne, that's the only way we're actually seeing anything real. Like when you turn on, whether it's Fox, CNN, MSNBC, whatever, you see Obama or Joe Biden talking to a bunch of people. I'm getting people texting, emailing directly from their own phone when they're standing there. And somebody in Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is a town that I've been to, I had a friend who used to live there. It's a tiny little town. I think there's 70,000 or 75,000 people living there. And this person in the crowd, I mean, it was like Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel, and Simon and Garfunkel got together, and you have like thousands of people there for Trump.
Yeah, it's a sea of people.
Yeah.
Farage, Nigel Farage.
Yep.
He was somewhere today. He said, this is better than, he said, this is like a rock concert. He said, I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Yeah.
They're everywhere like that. So when you look at Joe Biden, usually they just show him speaking. They don't show the crowd because there's 10 people or 20 people there. There's nobody there.
Even Obama, no crowd, 15 people. And that has been the case for the last month. And since the scandal has come out, Biden doesn't have anybody, and people are trying to change their votes. Did
you see that? There was they showed the graph on Google searches for "Can I change my vote?" after the Hunter Biden mess came out, and the graph went way up.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, Jason. There's, I don't know how many states, New York may even be one of them, that people who early vote can change their vote.
I doubt that would be accurate at all. I mean, I think that
early voting, some people have to sign their name and their ID number and everything. They can go erase that vote apparently, and you can revote.
We've got a couple of stories about voter fraud here in Texas. One of them 22,000 votes, another 127,000 votes. And the Supreme Court here has seen the evidence, and they're not going to do anything about it. And that's just
Wow.
2 instances, 2 cities. So,
Wow.
the fix is in, except they cannot, there's not any way the deep state can cover up the groundswell of support for Trump and against the deep state. That's really what it is. It's a vote against the deep state.
They had a one event in Miami or in southern Florida, and they said this is Hispanics for Trump.
Yeah.
And Jason, it went on for an hour. I mean, there were so many people there, I couldn't believe it.
I can believe it.
You can't hide this stuff. You cannot hide it.
Right.
I mean, even if they try to cheat, they can't cheat that much.
The deep states expose themselves. This lockdown was phony. It's been proven 9 ways from Christmas. And look at what they've done to everybody. Jason, one thing that I tried to get the information, and they got me blocked every way. These food banks all over the United States have got increases of 1,000% of people going to try to get enough food. These are middle-class people that haven't had any income for 8 months. And they don't have any way to feed their family. And these food banks are overwhelmed. You see parking lots. It looks like a football game, with bumper to bumper cars filling these huge parking lots, people waiting to try to get a can or two of beans or something to help feed their family. This is all over the United States. So, this vote, this election right now is very timely because the people are awake. They are speaking. And hopefully,
the worst thing the deep state ever did was, first of all, start the Black Lives Matter beating everybody up and ruining cities and breaking into stealing things.
We saw that all over we saw it in Libya,
but they did this right before an election, and then they did this scamdemic thing where they shut everybody down. So people are angry, and Trump came out and said, we're never shutting this country down again. It's never going to happen.
He really got people in the street.
He's talking about firing Fauci, and Fauci's family has now turned against him. They said he's too much of a flip-flopper.
Fauci's family has turned against Fauci?
Yes. Yes.
Who in his family?
I don't know. It was tweeted out, or it was an article I read that shows a picture of Fauci, and it said, Fauci's family, we're sick of you. We don't want to be with you anymore. You're a flip-flopper.
But we've proven that, Jason. The 2005 deal that he did, and when he said in the 2005, all those bodies that exhumed, most of them died from wearing masks. And he said masks absolutely are the cause. Then the little bastard turns around and says, masks are really psychological. They don't really do any good. They're mostly psychological.
And then he said you have to wear one. And
this is Fauci who said that, not us. We're not questioning the mighty YouTube, CDC, WHO edicts, because that's part of the reason, that's how they try to shut us down. But that's funny because this article is saying, Fauci is skipping Thanksgiving with his kids. It goes over the part that maybe they don't want to see him because he's a total jerk.
Not welcome here. Don't be coming here.
Yeah.
Wow, that was back in October they had made that decision. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be getting into this and other topics. I think it's very interesting for people to hear you guys talk about your firsthand insights, how this sort of thing started happening in Libya, because people see, you walk around New York City, certainly 30 to 40% of the ground level retail businesses are closed, out of business, boarded up. Today, people are frantically putting up wood because I think they're concerned that tomorrow after the election, they're not doing that because they think Trump is going to lose and everybody who wants to go to restaurants, open their business, and have personal safety is suddenly going to come out of their house and start randomly destroying businesses. I think they anticipate that Trump will win, and the same sort of chaos and mischief that we saw in June and July will return in full force.
Yep, you're right, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to make the transition over to our sponsor exclusive segment now. I hope that people will join us. They can watch on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. For people who sponsor Jimmy and JoAnne on Patreon, you're going to get an opportunity to order their DVD with free shipping. Normally it costs $15 plus $5 shipping, but sponsors of Jimmy and JoAnne on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty not only get to enjoy the sponsor exclusive shows, you can also purchase that DVD and have it shipped to you for take some heat off the post office, which is dealing with throwing away all these ballots. So they need all the help that they can get. But we'll see everybody over there in just 5 minutes. We'll be getting started and hearing all about what the tribes have to say about tomorrow's election. Thanks for watching, everybody.